Hey, this is Overpass Insights. My name is Eric and I make apps. Now today I want to talk about why the default answer for scope creep should be no. Okay, so today I want to talk a little bit more about scope creep. For anybody who's done any software development for clients, you know that scope creep is probably the biggest problem there is out there. I mean, aside from going out and actually finding clients, is when you have clients, is trying to keep them within the scope of a project. See, a lot of the projects we do are fixed price, so scope creep becomes a very serious issue the more and more that it happens. Right? Scope creep is probably the biggest cause of stress in my life right now, right? It causes me to worry, it keeps me awake at night. Maybe even once or twice it may have caused a little bit of erectile dysfunction, but we'll try to keep that one on the down low. But it's stressful, right? You're trying to get a project over the line and there's just these little tweaks. Can we just change this one little thing? Can we just change this one? Regardless of how much work went in beforehand. Right? There's something about software, the fact that it comes from the ether, that people think that there's no cost involved in making any little change, right? Like the creative process is still going. And a lot of times you have to remind the client that the creative process is over. We're in the building process now. Although, one of the reasons that my clients really like me is because I'm very accommodating. Like when they say, "Ooh, do you think we can just make this little change?" Or "We need this," or whatever. A lot of the times I'll say yes. So, I'm very popular with my clients. It's also the reason why my developers hate me, right? They can't stand the fact that I concede a little bit too early. And it's difficult when you're running your own business because you spend so long on the sales process, getting these projects done, getting these projects signed off, getting the contract signed, making sure that, we're going to get the best thing for you, and you want to give them the best project possible, that it's difficult to switch speeds and just start saying no later on. Right, but it's something that I do, and when we have our after project reviews, that's one of the things that comes up consistently, which is like, it's not something that I'm proud of. The fact that you go too easy on the clients. You need to tell them no when it's time to tell them no, and that's something that I'm working on. Right. I once had a job where I was working at a corporate job, and I remember having it was me and the project manager. And the project manager, he was kind of a jerk, right? He was kind of a jerk. He always said no to everything. He was not the kind of guy that you'd want to hang out with, but he was definitely the kind of guy that you wanted to deliver a project for you, right? Because we would go into meetings, and then the business clients would say like, "Ooh, we're gonna need to change this. We've been having internal discussions, and we think we need to change this." And he was like, "No," or "No, it's gonna cost you more," right? And they were like, "Yeah, but," and they try to do the same things that my clients do when I say no. It's like, "Yeah, but we really need it." It's like, "Yeah, but you're gonna have to pay more." So "Yeah, but you never said it was gonna be this," and it becomes this whole thing. But his whole thing is no. And there's been a few times where I've even said to him on the side, I said, "You know what? It won't take me long to do this. This is like a 1-hour job tops. We could just," and his whole thing is no, because every time you concede a little bit with scope creep, and you do something where you think, actually, they make a good point. Yes, we definitely should do this. We should put this in there. A lot of times you don't anticipate the amount of testing that it adds or the amount of additional support that you're going to need. There's nothing worse than when you concede a little bit and you just do a little bit just for free. Just like, "Yeah, I'll add this little feature on there just for free." And then have them come back to you saying, "It's not working for such and such a user," or that new feature that you added is not working over here. "Oh, we noticed it doesn't work on an iPhone 11 or whatever. We noticed it doesn't work on an iPhone 6. We know whatever." And you're like, "God, why did I even say yes to that?" So a good policy, and one that I'm trying to get better at, is to say no to every scope creep unless it's paid for. Right? It's just there's something you have to remind your clients. If they were going to build a building, they have to understand that you can't just go and change the foundations partway through. So you got label changes and stuff like that. And to be honest with you, I'm not too worried about label changes. Sometimes image changes or a little bit of design tweaks, I don't mind those, but they have to understand that this is not an iterative process. We will make this change, but I want all those changes at once, because it's not going to be a case that because we're waiting on something else, you have all these chances to keep changing the design as we go. Very difficult. But you have to make them understand, and then sometimes a change will be like it sounds simple to them, but it's like really fundamental change, like adding a different user role. Like you might say, we have an admin user, we have normal users, we have this user, we have that user, and then they come and go, oh yeah, but this guy, he needs to be able to see this, but not that over there, and he needs to be able to do this and this and this. And sometimes your framework is so flexible, it's easy, but most of the time it's like you have to go through and have to make them understand that, no, this is a whole new thing. This is huge, and we can't do that. And there's a few things you have to do in order to limit scope creep. First of all, the default has to be no, or you have to, or never do what I've done in the past, which is just like a really quick turnaround on some of these things, right? You want to please the client, you want them you want them to be happy with your service and everything, obviously, but you also need them to understand that these changes, especially the closer you get to the end of the project, they're costly. And by saying no to scope creep, you're not just defending your developers, you're not just defending your own time, you're also defending their project. Because your job, in addition to actually building it, is getting it done on time. And I've had clients that will run out the clock. They'll just, they get stage fright when it comes to going live, and they just don't want to do it. So it's difficult, and I work on this all the time, right? When you get a client, they have them come in, you need to be used to saying, no, we can't do that, or we can do that, but it's going to cost time and money, and I'm not paying for that time or that money because it's a new change. And one of the big things we get is, oh, but we mentioned it in a meeting. So if it's not in the quote, it's not in the quote, right? If it wasn't in the final document, then you got to do that. So anyway, I just want to let you guys know, for those guys who are thinking about getting into software development or doing work for a client, that is the biggest thing the hurdle you need to get over, right? It's the biggest one that I still need to get over. It's having a bad project with scope. A scope creep can ruin a project. Scope creep can ruin a company. They could ruin your relationship with your developers. They could ruin your relationship with your clients, right? So you have to make sure early on that you're very clear about what's included and what isn't. And if there's anything vague, like, oh, we'll figure it out when we get there, don't proceed until unless you're going to charge on time and materials, then you're good, but then they have to accept that risk. So I know I've talked about this before, but it's just been one of those things I've been thinking about. Let me know, for those of you guys who do work with clients. First of all, some of you guys will never work with clients. You just want to do your own app. And to that I could say, that's a good plan, right? You don't have the stresses of everyday life. You just have the stress of whether or not you can make enough money, but at least you're in complete control. And when you do work for clients, a lot of times, like I said, it can be very stressful. But for those of you guys who have done work with clients, what kind of experiences have you had? What was the worst experience that you've had? And how used to saying no are you? I think one of the problems we have is, for those of us who are indie developers, or if you're the one who actually does the sales and some of the coding yourself, is that it's difficult to say no when you work so hard to get those clients in. Anyway, just some of my thoughts for today. I hope you guys are having a good day. I hope you're staying healthy and safe, and I'll talk to you again next time.